What's going on YouTube? It's Deej, back again with another video, and today we're going to start a new series, and I'm going to give my regular season record predictions for all 32 teams. We'll do it division by division, and today we talk about the AFC East. So, as you already see, we're already into playoff predictors. Great website, highly encourage all you guys to use it, and if you want to send me your record predictions for the 2023-24 season, I'd love to check them out. I've already filled in all, games played for all four teams. You're not going to have to watch me do this live. I figured it makes this a little bit easier, a little bit more streamlined. But yeah, we're going to talk about all four teams in the AFC East, then we'll do the NFC East, and then we'll continue along in the process. But hopefully you guys enjoy. Hit the like button if you do. Subscribe if you want to see more of this series, more football content in general. And of course, shout out to our sponsor, BetUS, if you want to look out for their sign-up specials. All that information is down below in the description. But let's go ahead and start with the Buffalo Bills, 12-5, and a little spoiler alert, I do have them winning the AFC East, but it is by a very narrow margin, so Dolphins fans and Jets fans alike, don't come for my neck too much. But, you can also see I got them at the 3-3 division mark. I basically have them splitting every division matchup, so a win and a loss to the Pats, the Jets, the Dolphins alike. And something I am taking into account with all these, records, and specifically with the NFC East, I felt bad. I felt like maybe there's a team or two I shortchanged a couple of wins to, but I am taking, Sharp Analytics and their strength of schedule metric into account here. And it's probably the best analytic to use to grade this far out strength of schedule. It is based off their projected wins, so it's a little subjective versus objective, but taking last year's wins and losses to me is not really a fair way of looking at it because teams can change so much. But anyways, Bills have the hardest schedule. Or actually, they have the third hardest schedule in the division, which is crazy, but they have the 29th, quote-unquote, easiest schedule, which in turn is the fourth hardest schedule, and to finish off the list, the Dolphins then have the third hardest, the Patriots have the hardest schedule, and then the Jets have the seventh hardest schedule. Now, of course, all of that is, these four teams play each other, so much throughout the course of the season. Like, the Bills have to deal with those other three teams for a matter of 6 of their 17 games. So that's obviously inflating the strength of schedule a lot, but even their non-division games are really tough. But let's go ahead and with all that down, let's talk about the Bills' schedule. Like I said, I have them splitting their division games with the Jets, the Dolphins, and the Pats. So got a loss to start the year against the Jets. I could totally see Monday Night Football, Aaron Rodgers and the Jets start coming out swinging. Strong start to the year. I could totally see it happening. Then we get to the Raiders, Washington Commanders. Sorry, those two teams just aren't as good as the Buffalo Bills. And I know the Bills aren't, a perfect team. There's going to be question marks about if Von Miller comes back to be 100%. How legit can that edge rush be? How do you replace Tremaine Edmonds? Is the secondary going to take a step forward? And a lot of that, I think Miller will come back, maybe not as good as he was last year, but with the emergence of Greg Rousseau, another year of experience for Ed Oliver, I think collectively that pass rush will be solid. I'm a little worried about replacing Tremaine Edmonds, but it's a linebacker. We've seen teams be able to work around that. I think the secondary actually gets a little bit better this year. Really, the biggest question mark I have for the squad is, outside of Stephon Diggs, who's stepping up? Who can be that number 2 weapon? Is it Dalton Kincaid, who can play a little slot wide receiver, can play some inline tight end? Is that why you drafted him in the first round? Because he was the best pass catcher available after that run on wide receivers. Is it Khalil Shakir in a different role? Are you asking Gabe Davis to expand his game for more than being a vertical wide receiver? These are the questions that I want to see having the answer to it, because it's just got to be more than Stephon Diggs. Because we already saw down the stretch, and the frustration that Diggs showed in the playoff game. That was a team that had one guy who can win reliably and no one else. And I think this offense needs more than that. Josh Allen's a freak, but there's only so much him and Diggs can do by themselves. But anyways, just want to talk about the team all in all before we get moving on. Again, the split with the Dolphins. That Jags game week 5 is a little interesting because, Trevor Lawrence, you just don't know what you're going to get into. Plus, it's an overseas game. So, when doing this, there's some individual games that I think were, they're going to irritate some fan base and be like, the Bills aren't losing this team, or the Dolphins ain't losing that one, or whatever. I would encourage you mostly focus on the record because, you could flip a game here and then in turn make that loss a win and make this win a loss. Like, 12-5 is the most important thing. I view the Bills as a 12-5 team with their schedule. The individual games themselves, you could definitely flip and change. And the NFL is so unpredictable that, there's probably going to be a weird game the Bills lose that I don't really have indicated here in the strength of schedule. The Jags one could definitely be one, especially considering it is a European game. And, Trevor Lawrence, if he picks up where he left off last year, we could have an absolute shootout between two of the best and up-and-coming young quarterbacks in the league. And Josh Allen, who I already think is among the best quarterbacks in the league. So that could definitely be one that, bounces away the Jags. I got the Bills beating the Giants. I just think they're a better football team. Sorry, Giants fans. Split with the Patriots, which that could be one where you say, the Bills are going to they're going to sweep the Pats because they have more offensive firepower, assuming they do have a second wide receiver step up. And I wouldn't hate that argument. They're better than the Bucs right now just based off quarterback position alone. I don't mind the Buccaneers roster as a whole. And maybe I'll do a power ranking, all teams rosters without the quarterback position into account. I think that could be a fun video. The Bucs would actually be probably higher than most teams or most people would expect, but still think the Bills are slightly better, especially when you do take into account the quarterback position. I think the Bengals are honestly just a better team, and I think Joe Burrow is just ever so slightly playing a little bit better than Josh Allen right now. Maybe the 2023-24 seasons where that changes, but right now I'll take Burrow just by a hair, and I'll take the Bengals by a hair over the Bills, and it certainly helps that they are at home. I like them more than I like the Broncos. No disrespect, good defense, but question marks about Russell Wilson and how those wide receivers are going to come into play. And yeah, I just still think the Bills have one of the best rosters in football. And again, split with the Jets. I have them losing to Philadelphia, and this is the kind of the part of the schedule. It's like, hey, if you're a Bills fan, don't get mad at me because I have you losing in Philadelphia. Because 12-5 to me is the most important part to come out of this, and you could easily sell me on a world where the Bills lose to Philadelphia, go to their bye week, and beat Kansas City. And that's what I have playing out here. You could also sell me on a world where it's the complete opposite. They beat the Eagles, they go into their bye week, have a tough matchup with Kansas City, lose an Arrowhead. Again, it's very fluid. You can flip either one of these games. Again, 12-5 is the most important thing. Two more games to talk about. Got to beat in Dallas. This is week 15. This is about when we start to see things, wheels come off for the Dallas Cowboys. So I'm taking that into account a little bit. I just still think the Bills are a little bit better of a team. Got them over the Chargers too. This is another one where it's like just like the Jags game. You could easily sell me on this flipping back the other way for the Chargers because Justin Herbert could be playing some great football. He could totally take that step forward in that top 3 quarterback conversation and maybe boot out someone like an Allen or a Burrow. Specifically Allen, if his turnovers continue to be an issue like they were last year. And then, maybe the addition of Quentin Johnston's really coming to fruition, kind of like what we saw with Jameson Williams towards the end of the season in some big games for the Lions last year. I could totally see that happening, but I'll stick with the Bills for right now. Again, then we get to the Patriots and the Dolphins, which we've already talked about. I have that as a split. So that's a nice little, 5-game win streak going into the playoffs. Not a bad way to go into the postseason for the Buffalo Bills, and I will do way too early postseason predictions as well. All right, moving on to the New York Jets now. You'll see 4-2 in the division. I have them sweeping the Patriots. Everything else is a split. So we already talked about that Bills game. I'll give Dallas that week 2 win. It makes me think about what they did with the Chargers last year where Dallas lost week 1, and we'll talk about the Cowboys in the NFC video later this week. But I could see where they lose week 1, bounce back with a strong win week 2, and take down a Jets team. And, kind of off that, the Jets get a big win against Buffalo week 1. It kind of makes sense the next week. Maybe it could be hard fought, but I can see where the Cowboys steal it away from the New York Jets. Plus, it helps that Dallas is at home. So actually, never mind. I don't have the split with the New England Patriots. So now I'm questioning my own madness here. If the Patriots win that game in week 4, who do they sweep? Okay, sorry about that. So we actually are doing a little bit of editing here on the fly. I'm going to go ahead and have them sweep the Patriots. Originally, I had them sweeping the Dolphins. I do not see that happening, despite how good I think the Jets can be. I'll have them sweep the Patriots. I think there might be more offensive firepower, and I think Rodgers can handle that Belichick defense. So it's going to be a sweep against New England. But that's another one where it wouldn't surprise me if the Patriots end up stealing one of those games. I just, I look at those two offenses, and to me, they're not really on level playing fields right now. Kansas City, to me, is just a better team. The Jets could definitely steal this one. That defense, if as long as it's clicking and playing like it was last year. And we got to see what this Kansas City sort of retooled offensive line, specifically those tackles, how they're playing to start the year. Maybe that leads to some killer Jets pass rush and Jets win. Could totally see that. Plus that secondary is so good. But this also feels like one where, how the Jets match up against Travis Kelce. They're going to move Sauce Gardner to have him just basically on an island with Travis Kelce. That'd be interesting. But otherwise, if it's one of those linebackers, then that could be a bit of an issue as well. And then I'm also curious. I just don't know what I'm going to get with the Kansas City defense, too. So, again, if they're putrid to start the year, I could totally see where the Jets steal this one. But right now, I think Kansas City's the best team in football, so we'll give them the win there. Broncos, I think the Jets are just better. Playing in Denver this early in the season, still, week 5. That's a little tough. Denver's always got a great home field advantage, but especially early on in the year, you'll hear players talk about where it's like that's even harder to do. So maybe that could lead to the Broncos stealing that one. But for right now, I'll go with the Jets. I'll take the Eagles over the Jets. The Jets are going to lose games, and 11-6 is again the most important thing here. And I'll take Philadelphia, and we'll talk about them more in the NFC video. But I do think that 13-win mark is totally fair for Philadelphia, which obviously would include that win. I got to beat the Giants. Battle between the two New York squads. I just think the Jets are a better team. Sorry, Rodgers over Daniel Jones. I'll take that wide receiver room for the Jets over the Giants any day of the week, and I'll take that defense too that the Jets have over the Giants. It's just I think they're just kind of better across the board. The one advantage, maybe I do like Robert Saleh a lot, but maybe Dable has the coaching advantage. Maybe the OC advantage, Mike Kafka over Nathaniel Hackett. Maybe you could say that, but. Yeah, I just think the Jets are a better squad. I'll give the Chargers this one. Again, you're not going to win all games. You're not going to lose all games. You easily could have had the Chargers beat the Bills in that end of the year game. But here I'll give the Chargers the win over the Jets because I think they might just slightly be a little bit better than New York. And, week 9, we should start to see things come together. But also injuries could be a bit of a concern for either one of these teams. So who really knows? Then we get to the Jets and Raiders. Jets are just a better team. Split with the Bills. Split with the Dolphins. They're better than the Falcons. They're better than the Texans. They're disrespect to those teams. The Jets are just a better squad as long as they stay healthy. Split with the Dolphins, we already talked about. They're better than Washington. No need to talk about that. Cleveland, Thursday night game, very end of the year. That could be interesting if Deshaun Watson is looking like he did, 2 years ago. This is going to be a legit Browns team, so maybe this is kind of a haymaker heavyweight brawl. Or honestly, depending on how the divisions play out, this might be a massive wild card game too. So this is definitely one, if I do my season preview series, that I'll have circled on my calendar for the Jets as a must-watch, must-see game. I don't include division games in those if I bring that series back. But, this is non-division. I think this could easily be one of those games that dictates who's that top wild card seed, who gets in, who doesn't, all that sort of stuff. So right now I'll go with the Jets, but it's just because I don't know what to predict out of the Browns right now. And then you get the Patriots to end the year again. I got the Jets sweeping them. So all in all, and 11-6 record, 4-2 in the division. And then we'll go ahead and jump over to the Miami Dolphins. So I got the Dolphins going 12-5, and actually playoff predictors has them just right now as the winner of the division over the Buffalo Bills. And I think part of that is that division record at 4-2. I also have them sweeping the Patriots, and this time I mean it. So ultimately, if Buffalo can score a sweep against New England, it may be huge, just based on how I'm kind of looking at these, schedules way too early in advance. So that could be a couple of huge games there for Buffalo. But because of that, the Dolphins, ultimately, I have them winning the AFC East, which would be really, really fun. And I don't think that's impossible. But I got the Chargers winning week 1. Again, this is going to be a fun one because it's the number 5 pick versus the number 6 pick of that 2020 draft. Tua versus Herbert. But Chargers normally get out to hot starts, and I can see where it maybe takes a game for Miami, but I could also see where that Miami offense is clicking without, hesitation. So I just feel a little bit better about Herbert and how they'll start, and I feel like they're prone to a little bit hotter starts versus like Tua in a timing-based offense. I could see where that takes a week or two to really kind of hit its stride. And also a change at defensive coordinator, I can see where that takes a couple weeks for Vic Fangio and that all to kind of trickle down and become one of the best defenses in football. So I'll give the Chargers this one, but also, again, I'm not going to have the Dolphins go 17-0, so I've got to find teams I think they can lose to. Chargers are definitely that. Have them sweeping the Patriots. I'll have them beating Denver. They're at home, which certainly helps. And actually, Miami home field advantage became something that was talked about a lot last year with the Heat on that one sideline where it gets up and above 120 at points of the year, depending on the weather outside. And then Miami's got the shaded side. That's actually a pretty huge impact, and I can see where that's enough to steal this one away from Denver. I think Miami's better, but nonetheless, you get the point. Splitting with the Bills, so I'll take Miami winning the first one on the road, and it's going to be a road and road split. Those are more common than most people think versus the home and home splits, but we'll go road and road here for Miami and Buffalo. Again, sorry Giants fans, I just think the Dolphins are better. They're more explosive offense. Look at those wide receivers. Look at what they can do with the passing attack. I'll take Mike McDaniels and that scheme over, I like Mike Kafka. I like Brian Dable, but that McDaniels, Shanahan-esque scheme is just OP. And as much as I do like the Giants defense, that's Miami offense is going to take it to its limits. And they're better than Carolina. I could see Carolina being better than some people are expecting if Bryce Young is as good as I thought he was as the number 1 overall prospect on my board. It's a good defense, but again, that Miami offense is going to take you to your limits. I'll take Philadelphia right now. I think this could be a game where the Eagles command, time of possession and control the clock with their run game. I could easily see this turning into a game where Hurts has 15 carries. They're, actually run the ball more than they're passing and basically just use clock to their advantage, keep that explosive offense on the sideline. And then when we do get to see that Miami offense, again, they're going to take a defense to as far as they can handle, but that's a legit Philadelphia defense, and it's one that has a ton of depth across the board, both in secondary as well as with the pass rush. So they might be a defense that, to me, handles that high tempo, like super explosive, big play oriented Miami offense a little bit better because they'll be able to check in guys and keep everyone fresh. So I actually think I kind of like Philadelphia there in that matchup against the Dolphins. Got them sweeping the Patriots. Kansas City, sorry, I actually think they're better, but this is the Tyreek Hill return to Kansas City, so that'll be an exciting game to watch, no doubt. That'll definitely be in the season preview series if I decide to break that back. But yeah, I mean, two of the most explosive offenses in the NFL. That's going to be a really fun one to watch, but I'll take Patrick Mahomes over Tua Tagovailoa. Then you get the bye week. Comes in at an okay time. I think Miami's better than Vegas anyways, but makes it that much easier, that much more attainable to beat the Raiders. Split with the Jets. They're better than Washington. Again, two in those wide receivers versus Sam Howell and the question mark that he might be. If Howell takes, a huge step forward in year two as the kind of surprise guy at the NFL and that defense, Chase Young stays healthy, maybe this game could be one where Washington steals it away. Wouldn't totally shock me, but I'm just leaning on too many asterisks, asking too many if statements for me to really think that that could possibly happen. Odds are Miami's going to be a better team. Then we get the Dolphins, the Titans. I just look at this wide receiver room, and ultimately, that's what it comes down to a lot. What team can generate big plays and win through the air, and which team is going to struggle there? It's Treylon Burks, it's Nick Westbrook-Akina, it's Kyle Phillips versus Waddle, Hill, Cedric Wilson. Yeah, plus you also bring in a Devon A-Chain with Raheem Mostert in that run game. Yeah, to me, it's just a little offensive lopsided here. Titans might have a pretty good defense this year, but I also think that the Dolphins might end up having one of the best defenses in football. Great secondary. Really like Jalen Phillips paired up with Bradley Chubb. Vic Fangio coming as a DC, and I think by week 14 the Fangio effect will fully be in play. Split with the Jets. I'll give them the win over the Cowboys. And maybe I'll change my mind here. Like, I'll do a final version of this video where we go over each team's record one last time in the division standings. This might be the game I flip because Dallas is one of those teams in the NFC side where it's like I feel like I need to give them one more win. And Miami, it's like, I honestly, if you were to ask me right now, I think the Bills won the division. So the fact that right now, because of a tiebreaker division record, is giving Miami the nod over Dallas, it's making me kind of think, and maybe I'll flip this one. You know what? I'll go ahead and do it. Let's just do it live on the air. F it, we'll do it live. I'll give Dallas that win, week 16. Dallas is a legit team, man. We're not going to talk about them in today's video because we'll talk about them more in the NFC East video, but they're a legit team, man. I think that's another defense with a ton of explosiveness and firepower. They have a cornerback tandem that actually I think could go toe-to-toe with Waddle and Chase, and it'll kind of come down to health ultimately, especially with someone like a Stephon Gilmore or some of the older guys on that roster, Tank Lawrence rather. But nonetheless, they also have an explosive offense, and I think these are two teams that are relatively even. I think the Dolphins might be slightly better. But again, you're not going to go 17-0. I wanted to give the Cowboys another win. I think this is a game they could win if they play to their 100%, right? I think this is a Dallas team that smoked the Vikings, won an absolute shootout game with the Philadelphia Eagles. When Dallas is playing at 100%, they're among the best teams in the NFL. They'll need to bring their A game with Miami, but sometimes it takes that, that stiff competition for you to rise to that level of competition, and I think that could be the case here week 16. That single game took way too long to get through, and we have the Dolphins beating the Ravens. There's another one you could flip, but this will come down to if Lamar Jackson's healthy, what that passing attack looks like. I would assume by this point, Todd Monken in that passing game is really starting to hit its stride if it hasn't already. I think I just like Miami a little bit more. They won that huge shootout a couple of years ago, actually early on last year. And I think both offenses could be high octane, and right now there's just a few more questions I have on the Ravens defense than I do with Miami. So I'll give Miami the win on the road. And then they lose to end the year against Buffalo. So all in all, with the change, 11-6, Buffalo now your division winner. Sorry to make that change there on the fly. But last team to talk about in today's video is the New England Patriots, and I am sorry, Patriots fans. 6-11. I think this team ultimately could be better than they were last year, but the record might not show it because I could totally see where Mac Jones in a legitimate offense under a real offense coordinator does take a massive step forward, and then we're just kind of like, hey, well, that wide receiver room. Now I know, the DeAndre Hopkins stuff, I know that's still in effect, and at the time of this recording that hasn't, been, no dotted line signed or anything like that. But that could change it a little bit. But I can totally see where at the end of this year we're like, hey, I feel better about Mac Jones, but they just still need to put more around him. And also they have the hardest schedule in the NFL. And strength of schedule is a huge determining factor when it comes to putting together a team's record, especially in the way too early stages. So that does play a factor. If they had the easiest schedule, you could sell me on 10-7. You really could here for New England. But they got the hardest schedule. Starts out with Philadelphia. I just think Philadelphia's a better squad with more wide receiver talent. And honestly, I think a few less holes on the defensive side as well. I have them being swept by the Dolphins, being swept by the Jets. And that's the other thing, too, is like, I have them splitting with Buffalo, and this goes from 6-11 to 8-9 in the matter of not being swept by Miami and not being swept by the Jets. As long as they take one of those two matchups from both those teams, they go from 6-11 to 8-9. So if you're a Patriots fan ready to like tear my head off, think about that, and then it's like, okay, we're right around 500. It only takes a few more weird games or a few more upsets or a few more times where Belichick works his magic where we're over 500, and that's kind of where we want to be in that playoff mix. So it's not impossible. I'm not saying this team can't go over 500 just right now with that schedule, and I think some of the limitations that they have, specifically at the wide receiver position and some spots of defense, 6-11, I don't think is out of the realm of possibilities either, and obviously that's what I'm predicting here. Dallas, I think, just a slightly better team. I can see where Bill Belichick and the defense is kind of suffocating, and this could be a game where the Dallas offense is super lethargic. Wouldn't shock me whatsoever. Bill Belichick has a couple games a year where he just makes whoever they're playing look like they've never done any sort of offensive thinking whatsoever, or any sort of game planning. And maybe that's this game. But I also just really like that Cowboys defense. I think that pass rush is legit. And I think the Patriots offensive line is like, okay, run of the mill, solid, average. But that could be a game where the Dallas Cowboys pass rush in and of itself wins that game. So you could tell me on any way this game breaks out. Other than beat the Saints, kind of two teams that I generally like the roster, maybe a little bit on the older side. But all things considered, I don't hate where those two sides are. And you could easily tell me one way or another, this game could flip from one side to the other. All right, then we're on to this Raiders game, the battle of the Josh McDaniels, Bill Belichick rivalry, I guess you could call it, if it is a rivalry. I don't know. But it's in Vegas, so, again, this is another one where it's like, hey, Devontae Adams could certainly go crazy. Totally, but I'm not going to have the Patriots go 0-17. And all in all, I don't know if Jimmy Garoppolo's going to be healthy. Is he even going to pass physical? Who knows? But, a lot of this is defense. I'm not really, I think there's maybe a little bit more offensive excitement with the Raiders. Jacoby Myers, also a revenge game for him, Devontae Adams, Josh Jacobs. But look at those two defenses. To me, it's night and day. And I think that Raiders defense might be bad enough to elevate the floor of that Patriots offense. And then on the other side, the Patriots defense can do enough to slow down the Raiders offense. So this could totally be an ugly 23-21, 24-21 type of game, without a doubt. And another one where it's like, hey, this could go either way for sure. They're kind of in that same bucket for me, kind of middle of the road, man. Nothing too exciting about them. Not real Super Bowl contenders. But I'll give the Patriots the road win here. Have them losing that game to the Buffalo Bills and being swept by the Dolphins, beating Washington again. We just don't know what Sam Howell is, but first full year as a starter, assuming Sam Howell is still under center by this point in the year. Those types of young QBs tend to struggle against Bill Belichick, so that's kind of why I went in that direction. And same thing with Anthony Richardson, though I will say I did almost flip this in the way of having Indy win it, just because, just as much as there's that stat of Bill Belichick against rookie quarterbacks, there's the stat of mobile quarterbacks and their record against Bill Belichick. So this one could really break either way. Either Anthony Richardson looks young and inexperienced, and I do expect to see Anthony Richardson at this point of the year, or it's the mobile quarterback that gives Bill Belichick headaches. And again, another one that could go either way. Two teams kind of very similarly kind of stacked and in a similar bucket in my mind. But I'll give New England the win, and that game's also in Germany, so it adds another layer of who knows what could happen. Bye week, then I'll have them beat the Giants. Pretty much because of the bye week. Another one, hey, Giants fans, sorry. You could definitely sell me on a world where the Giants win this one. Not really in love with either team's wide receiver situation. Maybe I might like the Giants defense a little bit better, to be honest with you. I think there's a little bit more certainty with the defensive line and that cornerback tandem of Dory Jackson and Deontay Banks, who I'm super excited to see play. Maybe the Giants have a slightly better defense, but yeah, I think this is a game coming off the bye. Bill Belichick kind of works his magic, got a really good record off bye, so I'll go with Bill Belichick on the road there. Chargers, to me, are just better. Pittsburgh, New England, another game that can kind of go either way. Thursday night, I tend to lean toward teams that are at home, but this isn't a huge distance for New England to travel by any stretch, and I totally acknowledge that. But nevertheless, Pittsburgh's pass rush against, again, an average offensive line in New England. I think there's a little bit more excitement about the wide receiver position, a little bit more big playability out of the Pittsburgh wide receivers. Ultimately, this will come down to who controls the line of scrimmage, to be honest with you, and specifically for the Steelers' offensive line versus New England defensive line. If Pittsburgh can't move the line of scrimmage and be able to run the ball, then they're going to probably, it's going to be the Matt Canada struggling offense we've seen over the last couple of years at points. if they can actually generate some run game against that New England defense, then I think they'll be all right and they'll come away with a win at home. Chiefs are just better. Sorry. Broncos, to me, probably just a little bit better. I just don't know what we're going to get out of Russell Wilson, man. I just have no idea what that's going to look like. But if anybody's been able to turn back the clock, Sean Payton is probably one of the first names that would come to mind, especially of the people who were readily looking for a job last coaching carousel. And plus, it's always hard to play in Denver. So in this kind of 50-50 game, home field advantage, I'll give it the way to the Broncos, especially when you actually have a legit home field advantage like Denver does in Mile High. Bills, again, got them sweeping, and I have the Jets sweeping as well. So that does it for the New England Patriots. Overall record of 6-11, but again, 1-5 in the division. If they go 3-3 in the division, all of a sudden they're 8-9, and they're kind of in that 500 conversation. Flip other couple other games, they're over 500, maybe even in the playoff mix. So tough division. They have the hardest schedule in the league, so I am sorry, Patriots fans. I hate to disappoint, but I just think this is going to be a really, really hard year for New England. Even though I do think they could be a better team, the record might not show it. But, guys, that's going to do it for my AFC East way too early regular season record predictions. Little editing there on the fly. I do apologize for that. But let me hear your thoughts down below in the comment section. Who do you think ultimately wins the AFC East? And then maybe a couple other teams make the playoffs. And who do you think those teams might be? And also, let me hear it. Would you call this the best division in football? I think right now I would say it is. But let me hear your thoughts. If it's not the AFC East, what division is the best in the NFL? Let me hear all those comments down below in the comment section. While you're down there, hit that like button and subscribe if you're new to the channel and want to see more football content like this. That's going to do it for me. Hope you all have a fantastic rest of your day. And until next time, my name is Teach, and I am signing off.